All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Freddy is Ready podcast. This is episode 22. Good to have you guys here with us. It's gonna be a good day today. We're gonna talk about a little bit about some UFC and all that. We're gonna get into it. We had a good weekend, good sports weekend that happened this past weekend. We're gonna have good upcoming games, all over sports. We got baseball, we got all that type of stuff going on, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a great podcast. And a lot of things to talk about, but yeah, this past weekend was cool. It was cool. I enjoyed it a lot. I would say I enjoyed this past weekend a lot, simply because of I think this is one of the most hyped I've ever been for a fight, in my opinion. One of like This is one of the most anticipating fights, in my opinion. I was so hyped. I was ready to freaking rock and roll on Friday. I was like, oh my god. My homie was like, hey bro. Shout out to Big Mike. He was like, hey bro, fights at my house. Cool. We went over, had a blast. I was there early, watched all the main card, watched a little bit of the prelims. It was a good card overall, you know what I mean? Um, but yeah, let's dive into why I was so excited, which was UFC 328, and that one was just great. When you look at 328 and you look back at it right now in hindsight, where you see everything you've experienced it was one of the best cards of the year. I loved it. I loved every fight. It was probably the best build up in years, right? This card was one of the best in years. And it had a lot of big victories and it had a lot of implications on many divisions, right? And a lot of fighters, unfortunately, had to take a step back. A lot of fighters make a big leap forward. And that's where you get into the main card where it was just electric, right? You had King Green that was up first, and King Green, I knew he was gonna win just because German Stevenson's been out of the game for so long. King Green was probably gonna piece him up, which he did. He pieced him up early, and then he won submission in round one. It was a heck of a fight. I mean, super one sided, but for the most part, it was a really good fight. I mean, you look at Bobby Green mixed in his grappling, just outstrike Stevenson like nasty. I think he even hurt him at some point. That's why he got him on the ground. And it was just gonna go like everybody predicted, which was King Green winning via submission or knockout. It wasn't really going to go any other way, if it makes sense. And then that fight was very quick, very quick. Round one, like I said, good fight, one sided. But this is another fight that I was actually really hyped. It was for Sean Brady and Joaquin Buckley. That fight was one of my main fights that I wanted to watch. And because these guys didn't like each other at first. I don't know where the beef started from, but I think it was around Joaquin Buckley saying like he would beat up Sean Brady on the street or whatever. And then Brady took some exception to it, and it just went sideways from there. But there had been a lot of beef between those two guys, right? Like you had a lot of guys who didn't like each other, which is like Brady and Buckley. They didn't like each other at all. And it was just domination, to be honest. It was Brady grappling all three rounds and ground and pound. Buckley looked real good. Buckley looked real good coming out of the gate because he stopped those two takedowns. But what happened when that third one was taken? Just went straight to the ground and could knock it up. Sean Brady is one of the best grapplers in the welterweight division. I mean, the only guy that I think can out grapple him is Islam in welterweight. That's pretty much it. Everybody else doesn't really stand a chance when it comes down to grappling with this guy. He's just that much better than everybody else. And then grappling has this big stigma around it, right? Where grapplers tend to get in areas where they're complacent and then win the fight. And then we're going to jump back to this because a lot of people were upset with the main event, but we're going to get back to this. The constant advancements in position by Brady made this form of grappling fun because he was always in mount and just hitting him, ground and pound, ground and pound, ground and pound. I want to see activity as a fan, right? Because we're speaking from a fan perspective and an analytical perspective, but when you're looking at it from a fan perspective, you want fights to be finished. Granted, sometimes it's not going to go your way, or it's not going to be as easy to get a fight, which is understandable. I think most fans can agree or cope with that. But it's when you get guys who just take you down and are very complacent where they're at, where they know they won the round, they're gonna ride it out. That's why Charles Oliveira and Holloway was so boring. Where Oliveira wasn't really throwing up a ton of submissions, ground and pound, nothing to Holloway. It was just body triangle, mount, whatever. Brady mixed it in very well. I had a lot of fun watching this fight. Brady won by unanimous decision. And I mean, towards the end, he was just putting it on Buckley. Buckley looked like he was lost. I mean, Buckley looked like he had no idea what he was doing. He just got taken down. Buckley was always just, yeah, he was always mounted. And Brady just did not let him breathe. Brady kept smuggling him. Many times he threw up that Kimura and that Gate, that one arm guillotine that he's famous for, where he's going for a Kimura and then wraps that right or left arm around the neck and then almost finishes it with his shorts or finishes it with his stomach. And then sometimes he'll go to two hands if he feels the submission isn't there. But I like the fight a lot. You know, Brady's moving up. We're gonna go over his matchups later on, but I mean, great win for Brady, right? Great win. Then we go into Alexandre Volkov versus Waldo Acosta, which was Volkov by unanimous decision. This was a good little heavyweight scrap. It had some fiery exchanges, you know. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary. I actually had picked Acosta to win this fight. I thought Acosta was going to be much more boxer heavy and possibly knock out Volkov, but Volkov's done a pretty good job of just keeping his distance from fighters and using a lot of those leg kicks, those he doesn't really throw any leg kicks with intent to damage, but more or less to pick at you for the entirety of the fight. And then hopefully in the third round, you're like so banged up that he can come out and finish you. But I mean, I think Acosta just lacked the offensive output and combinations that he's used to throwing. He's used to just throwing at guys, bam, 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 bam. And Volkov just fought the fight that everybody knew Volkov was going to fight, which was behind front kicks, jabs here and there, and maybe a right hand. That was what Volkov does. Volkov's not really going to engage too much. You need to pressure Volkov. Volkov's not the fastest guy either, so I believe getting in with your hands is the best way. And we saw that a little bit with Waldo. Waldo did throw a little bit of the combinations, and we saw that. But for the most part, he just wasn't doing it enough. And I actually would like to see Waldo drop a little bit of weight. I mean, I think he goes in there too big. If he could slim down, his hands would be much faster, and he would have the same power. So overall, this was a good title eliminator. They're kind of both these guys were going to be in a tough predicament, even if they won, and we'll go over that later why. But yeah, it was just a good little scrap, good little heavyweight scrap, good for the rankings, good to keep the division, you know, active and a division that's been very lackluster. But then we go to the co-main event. This was my favorite fight in the whole entire card. Joshua Van versus Taisura Taira. Van demolished him by TKO in the third round. Great fight, first of all. Great fight. It had all the embodiments of martial arts in this fight. You had grappling, you had takedowns, you had takedown defense, you had grappling submission defense, you had striking, you had boxing, you had, oh my God, this was beautiful. So I picked Van. I picked Van even though he was the underdog. I knew Van was going to come out and beat these guys because one thing I've noticed about wrestlers and heavy grapplers, if they do not get or not if they don't get a takedown, if they don't get a submission, or if they don't keep you down for the entirety of the round, they panic. They panic and they gas themselves out. And we saw that when in that second round, where Van got taken down all for that first round. Second round, he's losing the round, right? Tyra's winning the round on the scorecards. He's taking him down. What happens? Van gets up, and I told my buddy next to me, I go, Van's gonna pressure him, and Tyra's gonna start shooting on him, and that's where he'll defend. Because you're not gonna defend a wrestler when he sets up a shot. You gotta force a shot as a striker. What happened? Tyra shoots, Van counters, pushes the head, whatever. Then the boxing combination started to open, and Tyra could not move his head to save his life. I mean, if there was a string, he kept his nose on that string. It was bad. He was getting peppered left and right. And it really got out of hand, and his face was all swollen and red. But I noticed Van's boxing is just too crisp, and I knew it was eventually going to lead to a TKO. I had actually written it down like a week prior, or the day prior, I'm sorry. And I had him by third round, TKO. I didn't think he was going to win in the fifth. I had him by third. But the key for Van was always going to be combinations and defensive wrestling. Because a 1-2 punch isn't going to do anything against a wrestler. It's when you throw those 3 or 4 and you mix in the body and that wrestler, all of a sudden, that intuition is nothing but wrestling. That's all their intuition is in wrestling, right? So their goal is to get you down. And anytime you force them into an uncomfortable situation, they panic shoot. And Van in the 5th round countered beautifully. And once you saw Tyra shooting, those were kind of desperation shots. Van stuffed his head perfectly, turned him over, and unloaded on him. When Van started digging into that body and then just went up to the top, hug, right, hug, I was like, it's over, man. And then he drops him. Body, left, right hug to the body, left hook to the body. Then he goes up to the head, drops him, left hook, out. Tyra protested the stoppage. I think it was a good stoppage, to be honest. I mean, when you're taking that much damage, you've been rocked twice. In that 3rd round, he got 10-8, I believe. Or it was like 10-8, I believe. Or it was 10-9 either way, but he got dropped and was getting pounded on the ground. Van dropped him dirty in the 2nd. With a little more time, he probably finishes him. So it was one of those where I felt like one more knockdown on the ref was like, I'm not going to allow this kid to die either, right? And what really showed that was when Van ripped his body, Tyra almost fell into like a fetal standing position. He tucked his elbows in, put his hands up, and bent over completely. Top of his head was facing Van. That kind of really lets the ref know, hey, I'm really hurt right now. I'm really hurt, and I'm just trying to survive. Then Van rips you to the head, and you try getting away, and he drops you with 2 consecutive left hooks. Yeah, that's time to call the fight. You know, crazy heart by Tyra, but it was just about time that Van landed those shots. I mean, and I think Van's a champion, man. I love Van. Van's 24 years old. He's the guy. He's the guy. There is no speculation anymore. He is the guy. But then we move on to the main event, which is Sean Strickland and Khamzat Chimaev, which Strickland won by split decision. And Strickland fought the fight he needed to fight. Granted, he had a messed up right shoulder, right? Outlanded Chimaev and landed the most effective punches. And then I want to get into the whole thing of people are like, oh, Chimaev won the fight. How is Strickland going to win behind the jab? How is this? Okay, let me put it this way. You cannot score a takedown and not do anything with it. That is the equivalent of a striker hitting you 2 times and bouncing out and not letting you touch him. That's the equivalent. So if we're going to credit Chimaev for takedowns and not doing anything with it, it's just, I took him down. That's it. We stayed on the ground. No damage. No advancements in position. But I still win the round because I'm on top? No. So when a striker does it in a sense where he's jabbing and you're seeing his head snap back, where that's causing damage. Sure, it's not the most flashy, but it's the same thing as hugging somebody on the ground. That's a win for Strickland. But Chimaev was walking forward. Chimaev was the one. I don't care if you walk forward or not. What does that do? If both of those guys were exchanging dirty combinations, the punches landed were within 2 or 3, then you can go, okay, he was the aggressor. But when you're getting outlanded by 20 punches around, don't tell me the aggressor is going to get more of the credit. If we look up the punch stats, right? Strickland outlanded him a lot in that 3rd or that 2nd and 5th round. Let's look it up real quick. But yeah, like you can't keep rewarding wrestlers for lengths on somebody on the ground. Then a striker comes back and then beats you up, and you're like, oh no. So Strickland in the 3rd round. Well, 1st round, first of all, nobody landed any punch. So Chimaev won because he wrestled. He just laid on him. 2nd round. That's when Strickland defended the takedown, and then it was Chimaev pulled guard, landed 15 out of 10. 3rd round, Strickland landed 43 out of 100 compared to Chimaev 29 out of 89. And then Strickland, that was the round where Strickland dropped or rolled him over. 4th round, Chimaev 37, whatever. 5th round, 31 to 22. So it's not like they're within 2 to 3 punches. I mean, they're within 10 punches, right? 10 punches, that's significant. It's not like Strickland just let him walk him down, right? Strickland was charging in, jab, jab, jab. And Chimaev didn't really do anything much either. I mean, you can't keep counting overhand rights that don't land. You gotta count what you see, and that's Strickland jabbing him his face off. So you can't keep allowing Chimaev to be like, oh, but I walked him down, I threw big overhand rights, I landed bigger punches. You landed one bigger punch than him, and you missed every other punch. How are you gonna get credit for that? It makes no sense. Right? And that's why I think Strickland won the fight. I do believe Strickland won 2, 3, and 5. You look at it, 2 and 3, obvious, right? In that 5th round is what it came down to, and Strickland, working behind his jab, outlanded him. I don't care about your forward pace. I don't care if you get outstruck by 10 punches, you lost, right? Or unless Chimaev, by whatever reason, drops him, or you could tell he's just boom, 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 slugging him down. And yeah, okay, I understand that. The 10 punch significance doesn't really matter. But when you guys are getting the same amount off, damage is the same. Strickland broke his nose, had to cut here. Chimaev's whole face was red, bruised up. So they had similarities in damage. You got to give it to Strickland. And they're like, oh, to beat the champ, he beat the champ. He beat him. He beat him in his own game. He grappled him. He reversed submissions, and he outstruck him. There's no discussion. There's no discussion on who won the fight. My opinion, it was Sean Strickland. I would have had a unanimous, but split decision does it. It's still a victory. But then we get into the future matchups, and that is, let's start off with we're gonna do winners and losers. We're gonna go with the first main card. I think Steven's gonna get cut. I don't see him fighting again in the UFC. It was one of those where like, okay, it's a good welcome back, but that's pretty much it. King Green, I think you give him Chris Duncan. Chris Duncan just came off a loss against Renato Moicano. Perfect fight. Both guys trying to get in the rankings. Both guys aren't good enough. Let them fight. Let them fight. That'll be a good match for both of these gentlemen. Be a good little scrap. Joaquin Buckley. So you can't give him a wrestler no more, or else you're just gonna run him out of the UFC. So what do? You give him another hard matchup. You give him Uros Medic, the striker, the guy who is knocking everybody out. He knocked off Jeff Neal, nasty. I think you give them both of them. Both those guys are strikers, powerful, and that'll be an electric fight for both those guys. I mean, winnable fights for both of them. And whoever wins is going to be back into the top 10, back into the discussion for a big potential title eliminator. So that's what you do. Sean Brady, he's in a tough spot too, because Prates is not going to fight Brady, in my opinion. Prates, I mean, he just picked up JDM. Why would he fight back in the rankings, right? Morales just beat Brady. Why there's no point in rematching him. I think you do Morales and Prates. I think you do Brady and Kamaru Usman. Usman has been, campaigning for a title shot. He doesn't deserve it at all. Oh, but he's a legend. No. You're a legend, but you've lost 4 out of your last 5 fights. 3 out of your last 5 fights. Like, you're good, bro. Like, you got to win you got to win a fight. You beat Joaquin Buckley, but Sean Brady just did the same thing to him right now. So your fight is just not as credible. You do Sean Brady and Kamaru Usman. Winner would then fight maybe Morales again, or the loser of Gary Makachev. That's what you do. I think you do Sean Brady, Kamaru Usman. Big name for both those guys. Kamaru Usman, if he beats Brady, could then campaign for another title shot. So I think that works for both guys. Winner automatically goes up to the number 2, number 3 spot in the rankings. 4, maybe. Loser probably drops back to 8, 9. For Waldo Acosta, you got to do Curtis Blades. I mean, Curtis Blades is good, but he just came off a big loss against Hawkett, and Hawkett jumped him in the rankings. So I think you do Waldo and Curtis. Both guys are coming off a loss. Both guys could use a victory over a big, significant name. Blades is going to get some time off. I could imagine Waldo does as well. Both gentlemen probably come back 4th quarter of the year. Tyra or Volkov. Volkov, this is the hard one because I honestly feel bad for Volkov. Volkov is going to have to fight the loser of Gane and Pereira. If Pereira loses, Pereira might retire, right? So Volkov, you probably go against loser. If Gane loses, you go Gane, or you maybe go winner of Lewis Hawkett. But if Hawkett wins, Hawkett's going to be jumped into the title picture. So Volkov is not going to get a title shot anytime soon, to be honest. He's not putting guys away. He's not winning emphatically. He's just kind of getting by. So doesn't really sell himself. I think Hawkhead's gonna jump in with Beats Lewis, and then if Gon wins, Gon's gonna fight Aspinall. Pereira loses, he's gonna retire. Pereira wins, he's fighting Aspinall. So Volkov's not gonna fight for a title anytime soon. He has to keep winning, has to beat a big name. Tyra. So first of all, Tyra needs to rest the whole year. I think he's done for this year. Let him come back early next year. He's still very young, 26 years old. Let him rest the remainder of the year. Let him come back early next year and fight Kavanaugh, the Englishman. That'll be a banger. Kavanaugh is coming off a big victory over Brandon Moreno. Think you do Kavanaugh Tyra. That'll be a banger fight. Banger fight. Tyra and Kavanaugh. Van Pantoja 2. That's the next fight for Van. Obviously, there's no other fight. You got to go Pantoja 2. I'm actually favoring Van in that fight. People are like, oh, Pantoja's a different animal. Van is 24 years old, and he just beat one of the best grapplers in the division. He's only getting better. Pantoja's only getting older. So I'm going Van to beat Pantoja, but obviously we'll get into that a little bit later. But that's the next fight. Chimaev, the next big fight. I know he's been saying that he wants Strickland. I don't think you give him Strickland. Just because, I mean, yeah, sure, it was a razor close fight, but he didn't do anything to deserve an immediate rematch. He didn't defend his belt multiple times. He never defended his belt in general. So I think you do Chimaev and Paulo Costa at light heavyweight. We saw the controversy behind the weigh-in. Chimaev, avoid that. Go to light heavyweight. Fight Costa. Put yourself in a title picture. Strickland, you got to go Imavov, right? Imavov is beating Adesanya. He's beating Carlo Borralho. He's beating, I believe, who he beat. Did he beat? I think he beat Joaquin Buckley. You got to go Imavov. Imavov deserves it. He's the number one contender. You go those two at it again. Strickland beat him at light heavyweight years back. Imavov, Strickland, 2 at middleweight for the title. Take my money. Both great strikers you can match up. So that was that. And it concludes the UFC portion of it. You know, that was a good little card. Great card, as a matter of fact. Great matchups to make after that, right? You have a lot of big names in that card. You can make great matchups after that. But we'll catch up on UFC again later. But moving into staying in the combat sports realm, we got boxing. We're talking about a little fight, which was Dubois and Wardley, which was one of the best heavyweight fights I've seen in a while. And it's very rare to see a slugfest at heavyweight. Much more rare when the guy gets dropped twice and then dominates the rest of the fight. Dubois is a machine. I mean, he just doesn't get tired. He throws a nasty right, and his right hand is like almost like a clobbering right hand. It's not much of a straight one. It's like a clobber one. And it happens to land a lot. Wardley got worked. Unfortunately, Dubois does not deserve a title shot. I don't think you gave it to him just because Usyk has beaten him twice, stopped him twice. You don't do that. It doesn't really make a lot of sense for me. What you do is you give him Agit Caballel. Caballel, in my opinion, is the best heavyweight besides Usyk. Currently, I don't think anybody beats him. He is the best body puncher in the heavyweight division. He is one of the most well-rounded offensive machines in the heavyweight division in Caballel. German. So he's very, not known, but he's ranked number 2. Coming off wins of Hujovic, coming off wins of Zhilin Zhang. He beat Frank Sanchez. So he has good wins. He is up there. You give him Dubois, in my opinion, on their next fight. They fight later in the end of the year in England. Perfect fight. Or in Saudi Arabia, whatever fight. I think that's the next one. But now moving into the land sports and one of the major sports, MLB the Show. I love the show. I play MLB the Show every here and there. I'm not that good, but I dominate sometimes. So we're talking about 3 teams in specific that I want to cover, which was the Dodgers, Yankees, and the Braves. So the Dodgers have just been struggling. And then I tend to fall on the injuries. They're my team. It could be a little bit of biasness. But Glasnow is out. Betts just came back. Edman is still out. Edwin Diaz is going to be out till the second half of the season. And then Kike Hernandez is still out. You have multiple guys who are out. And that's not to mention some bullpen pieces like Evan Phillips, some starting pitchers like Gavin Stone, River Ryan, all that type of stuff. And then they're just not able to hit with runners in scoring position. They're just lacking the hits when it comes down to runners in scoring position. They need to clean that up before it gets any worse. But I think they'll figure it out. They'll be all right. They got too good of a team to not allow that. Tucker's starting to hit a little bit better. Otani's still not hitting well, but he's great on the bump. I mean, he's a Cy Young leader right now in the NL. I mean, him over Skeens, I think he's up there. His ERA is .89. His WHIP is probably .80. It's unheard of, right? And he's still hitting 250. His batting is going to come up, but we cannot blame him for not hitting. I get it. We hold Otani to a higher standard because he's a unicorn, but at the end of the day, he's human. You cannot have Otani. We cannot emphasize Otani hitting 300 for 50 bombs and pitching like a Cy Young. Realistically, it's not realistic. If it happens, maybe it happens, right? I could be wrong, but he's gonna be really great at one of them and good at the other one. So it's which one do you want? Dodgers could probably use his hitting more, but I think him on the bump's gonna serve him better in the postseason. So can't blame him too much. But the Yankees, I mean, though they have the Mashing brothers, the Bronx Bombers, in Judge and Rice. I mean, both guys are above 15. If I'm not mistaken, Judge is at 17, Rice is at 16. Those guys are just mashing in that order, right? You got, I think Rice bats behind Judge, if not vice versa. So they're protecting each other consistently. They got dogs in that field. The Yankees are playing great baseball. They're number one of their division. Probably think number one in the AL, possibly in the no Braves are number one in the whole league. But yeah, Yankees are doing great. It's behind Judge and Rice. Their pitching's gonna get better. You know, Cole's gonna come back. Fried's doing his job. You're gonna get Rodon, I think, come back, or if he's pitching already. They're all gonna work together. They're all gonna come into fruition. The Yankees. The bullpen's probably gonna be the only downside, but they'll be all right. And the Braves. The Braves are just getting major contributions from any big player. I mean, they got exceptional pitching from Chris Sale, Strider, Elder, and Martin Perez. All those guys are just doing really well on the bump. And not to mention, they got a good bullpen in Roger Suarez, Racielo Iglesias. They got a good bullpen. Hitting, they're going to be great. Acuna will be back. Matt Olson's hitting the ball well. Albies is going to be a dog every year. Well, they got Dubon, the shortstop, who's a youngster. He's going to be solid. All those guys are solid, you know. The Braves got a good team. They got a great team. They can go very far. It's still very early to tell in the season, but the Braves are just doing very well. They're going to continue to succeed and probably win that division if it goes the way it's going with, you know, the Mets and the Phillies just taking a dump. That's what it seems like. And I want to chime in a little bit about the NBA. The NBA, I'm not a big basketball guy in terms of analytically. Like, I don't really watch it consistently, but I have been watching the playoffs in the last couple seasons. But I mean, the Thunder are just dominating, right? They took down the Lakers. They took 4-0. They're in the conference finals for the second straight year. The Spurs are showing signs of great potential. You know, they're currently up 3-2 on the Timberwolves. You got the Knicks, who look like favorites to come out of the East. The Pistons and Cleveland battling it out for a top spot in the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm sorry. So, yeah, basketball's heating up. I like it. I like the way they're going. A lot of these games are close. The refs are kind of staying out of it for the most part. Non-Thunder games, but they're doing good. You know, they're doing really good. I like it. It's going to be a fun year. A very entertaining year. But let's dive into some Instagram questions that I received that I want to go over that I want to answer. Some people on my Instagram. For those of you that don't know, it's Freddy's Ready _sports. That's what that's my Instagram is. Let's go over the questions. All right, here we go. So we have Angel Magana. How do we see the Patriots doing next season? Non-biased opinion. Thank you for the question, Angel. I can see them doing pretty well. I actually do see the Patriots doing really well. I do see the Bills getting better. The Broncos could probably gonna go back with Knicks. The Texans could probably get better if they upgrade that offensive line. So, do I think the Patriots go back to the Super Bowl again? I don't think so. I think they're gonna take a dump. They won't be as good this year. They'll probably get as far as the divisional round. I think the Patriots get to the divisional round. That's it. I don't see them beating those top dogs next year. You know, they got a good little draft pick and that guard that they received. So we'll see what they do with Campbell. But overall, Patriots, to me, they're first, second round exits next year. Fortunately, unless they bulk up. Unless they bulk up that team, then they'll be a lot better. So I got 2 questions from Adrian. What's the greatest sports team of all time? God damn. The Seattle Seahawks of 2020. No, I'm just kidding. The greatest sports team. Well, you gotta look at dynasties. If we're looking at single season, I mean, the Mariners are badass in the early 2000s. I think it was 2001 or 2000 or 03 or whatever when they won it. I think it was 03. Best sports team of all time. That one has you thinking a lot because you got to go, okay, based on dynasty. You know, the Warriors come up to the main. It would have been the Patriots if they would have finished that undefeated season. But I'm going to go with the greatest sports team of all time. Franchise, it's going to be the Yankees. Franchise, they're just the Yankees of 27 rings. No other team has done that. But in terms of the greatest, okay, no, I got it. The greatest sports team of all time is going to have to be Real Madrid when they had that core of Ronaldo, Modric, Marcelo. They had Casillas. I can't remember the year exactly it was, but I believe they won like 3 Champions League back to back to back. That is probably the greatest team of all time. I mean, they had number 1 from every country on that team, right? It was not even funny. They were facing teams that, okay, yeah, so the 16-17 Real Madrid, because they won the Liga and they won the Champions League. I mean, I don't see, they had, their head coach was Zidane. Let's look it up again. 16 squad. All right, so they had that 2016. No, was that Ronaldo was on that team, right? Yeah. So you had like Ronaldo. I mean, that team was stacked, bro. Bale. When they had that, like, okay, here we go. I think this was a team. Yeah. So you had Toni Kroos, you had Isco, you had James, or no, not James. You had Modric, Casemiro, Ramos, Marcelo, Casillas, or Navas, I think it was at the time. I mean, I think that's been the greatest team ever assembled when you look at it. Like, they're just number 1 of all time. They won the hardest tournament in probably sports, which is the Champions League. And they had Hall of Famers everywhere. They had the greatest player on the court in the field, which was Ronaldo. What's the greatest sports movie of all time? Remember the Titans, no doubt. Denzel Washington, Remember the Titans, probably the best sports movie I've ever seen in my life. That's number 1, no doubt. In my mind, Remember the Titans, number 1. Why the Dodgers selling right now? It's just, things are not going their way. They always kind of go through this stretch. I'm glad that they're getting it out of the way now. But they're injured. They're not hitting runners in scoring position. They're going to bounce back. Dodgers should be badass. Who do you think is going to win the NBA Finals? It's going to be the Thunder. Thunder are going to go back to back. I have the Thunder and the Knicks battling it out. But yeah, I'm going to roll with the Thunder to win in 6 games. I don't know. I really do. The Spurs will probably be their hardest matchup. But I got the Thunder winning it all. All right, everybody, that concludes this episode of the podcast. I apologize if the audio isn't the best. I am going back to my camera, and on my ears, I'm hearing this like staticky noise, so I'm really hoping it's not that bad. But yeah, we'll see. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the episode 22. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you guys so much. God bless you guys. Love you guys all. Have a good one. Bye-bye.